Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys. I hope that all of you are doing good. Now in this video today I'm going to talk about cheap fragrances that actually smell way more expensive than they cost. And I've prepared a list of 11 such fragrances. In other words, cheap high quality smelling gems. I'll start this video off with a fragrance from the house of Zimaya, which is called Wujood, and in my opinion this is a real hidden gem of a fragrance that deserves more attention than it currently gets. This thing is a very nice clone of Rosendo's Mateo No. 5. It can also serve as an alternative to YSL Baby Cat. You got the scent profile is very similar to the original Rosendo Mateo fragrance. You got that very smoky vanilla that's aided by some suede leather, some spices, some amber. All in all, a very nice, sweet and smoky scent profile. Perfectly unisex, has very good performance, comes very nicely packaged. You get a very nice looking bottle, and the best thing out of all is that it's very, very inexpensive. Usually here in Europe this thing costs around about the 20 euro mark, or sometimes even less than 20 euros. The first fragrance in this video, the Zimaya Wujood. The second fragrance again will be from the house of Zimaya, and this one is called Zimaya Stallion, and this fragrance is a clone of Ganymede. And probably at this current time the cheapest clone of Ganymede, but don't make a mistake, this still has very, very nice quality. You got again very similar scent profile to the original fragrance. You got that fragrance that's heavy on the saffron, you got the mineral notes, you got the suede, all the other florals that create this sort of a very interesting mineral scent or metallic vibe that people call it. It's not my personal favorite scent profile, but and I have quite a few clones at this point of Ganymede, but this thing so far has been the cheapest one out of all, and it slightly differs compared to the original scent by having a little bit more of an emphasis on those citrusy notes in the opening, those fruity citrusy notes in the opening, but still, especially on the dry down, is very close to the original scent. Performance here is very decent, and again the best thing out of all is the price tag. This thing costs less than 20 euros here in Europe, and all in all, if you're looking for the cheapest currently clone of Ganymede, definitely check out Zimaya Stallion. The next fragrance will be from the house of Fragrance World, and it's called Mocha Oud. I really like this one. Now this is supposedly a clone of a Bodycea fragrance that I've never tried. I've never tried the original, so I cannot tell you how good of a clone this actually is to the original, but I can tell you that this thing is a really nice scent. I really love the bottle of this fragrance. It's super inexpensive, costs less than 20 euros, $20, less than $20, and the scent profile has a very high quality. It's spicy, it's woody, it has ambery sweetness, there are some fruits, there's a sort of a coffee note in this fragrance as well. I even pick up a touch of a boozy vibe out of it. Very warm, slightly dark scent that works great in cold weather, and in my opinion is also perfectly unisex. Performance is great, projection is great, and as I said, the best thing out of all is the price tag, which is super low. Fragrance World's Mocha Oud. The next fragrance again comes from the brand of Fragrance World, and this one is called Cocktail Intense. Now this is a fragrance that received quite a lot of attention in the past year or so. This thing is a clone of Kilian's Angel Share, and one of the better clones of Angel Share, scent wise, how close it is to the original. You get that boozy opening, sweet boozy opening, and the dry down of course is all about all those sweet notes with some spices, the cinnamon, the vanilla, the amber, the dates and all that stuff. It's very close to the original scent. On the dry down, the opening is slightly different. This has less sort of a boozy vibe compared to the original scent, but all in all, as I said, one of the better clones when it comes to Angel Share, and also one of the cheapest clones when it comes to Angel Share. Performance is very decent, projection is very decent. Again, another perfectly unisex fragrance that also, in my opinion, can be a very good deal, especially if you can find it for a good price. Usually this costs around about the 25 euro mark here in Europe. The fourth fragrance in this video, Fragrance World's Cocktail Intense. The next fragrance comes from a clone house that's based in Toronto, Canada, and it's called Zoha Aroma, and the fragrance is called Spiced Bourbon. This thing is a fantastic clone of Nishane's Annie. all about the vanilla, and you get some citruses in the opening and a very sweet vanilla on the dry down, like you get with the original scent. Super close to the original, with the only difference here being the fact that it has a slightly brighter, slightly fresher opening. They have a little bit more, you know, the citruses in here have a little bit more power compared to the original scent of Ani. Ani is one of my favorite niche scents, and the Spice Bourbon turned out to be a fantastically good clone. Prices of this of the fragrances of Zoha Aroma are very competitive. This is a 55 milliliter bottle size that you can get for a very decent price. They have a lot of other clones. I have tried some of them, and most of them ended up being very nice. So if you're looking for a clone of Nishanes Ani and you live in North America especially, definitely check out Spiced Bourbon from Zoha Aroma. The next fragrance will be from the house of Lattafa and one of their new releases that's called Al Nashama Capri. And this is a great clone of YSL La Nuit de L'Homme and YSL La Nuit de L'Homme Blue Electric. This is one of those sort of hybrid clones. The opening is pretty similar to what you get with the Blue Electric flanker, while the dry down to my nose feels a little bit closer to the OG La Nuit de L'Homme. You get that fresh, spicy opening, you know, with the mint and the creamy lavender, the great cardamom note in the opening of this fragrance with a touch of sweetness, and the dry down is all about again the mix of that lavender, of the ouds and the spices with some amber sweetness. This thing feels a little bit more creamy on the dry down compared to the original scents, but one thing where it beats them is the performance. This thing is a lot louder, you know, projects a lot harder compared to the two original fragrances and lasts longer even than the older formulations of La Nuit de L'Homme, the OG La Nuit de L'Homme. And the good thing is that the price tag is very decent. So if you're looking for a super high quality clone of YSL La Nuit de L'Homme and La Nuit de L'Homme Blue Electric, but with even better performance, definitely check out Lattafa's Al Nashama Capri. The next fragrance comes from the house of Ard Al Zaafaran and it's called Tafakhar. One of their lesser known fragrances, you know, when it comes to Ard Al Zaafaran fragrances, but in my opinion this thing deserves way more attention than it actually gets. Now this fragrance is not a direct clone of anything, but it's a fragrance that's quite heavily inspired by Parfum de Marly's Carlisle, and especially in the opening. You get a very similar opening with that sweet apple. Here though feels a little bit more boozy, you know, you get some spices in the opening. The dry down though goes in a little bit of a different direction. It loses some of the sweetness. It's not as intense as you get with Carlisle. This is feels a little bit more woody, a little bit more spicy, but all in all is a very interesting take on the Carlisle DNA. Performance is very decent, projection is very decent, and the best thing out of all is that this thing is dirty cheap. Here in Europe it costs around about the €15 mark. Tafakhar from the house of Ard Al Zaafaran. The next fragrance comes from the house of Afnan and it's called Turati, or as it's better known, Turati Blue. An absolutely fantastic take on the Bulgari's Tiger DNA, a clone of Bulgari Tiger with a slight twist. I absolutely love this fragrance, you know, I love the opening. You get a very realistic sweet and juicy grapefruit note in the opening of this one. You get some spices, some ouds. The dry down becomes a little bit more woody, a little bit more spicy, a little bit musky, in fact quite a bit musky. You still get some of that citrusy sweetness and freshness from the opening. A super versatile scent that has a fantastic performance and fantastic projection, and probably you know, the only gripe that I have with this fragrance is the bottle design, the fact that the bottom part is very narrow and this thing can be very wobbly on your stance. But all in all, this is an absolutely fantastic scent with super high quality from the house of Afnan and it's called Turati Blue. The next fragrance comes from the house of a Swiss Arabian and it's called Shagaf Oud Azraq. A very niche smelling fragrance that has a very unique scent profile. The fragrance in here is a sort of heavily inspired by Honey Oud from Montal. It also smells a little bit similar to Parfum de Marly's Ocean. Very interesting scent. The mix here is all about the combination of honey, agar oud with some vanilla, some amber, and also some leather. Has a very sort of an oriental vibe to it. Fantastic performance and projection. It's pretty much a beast mode performing fragrance. It's considered unisex, although in my opinion it leads a little bit more to the masculine side. It's supposed to be a limited edition type of a fragrance, but I still think that it's pretty readily available across Europe at least. So if you're interested in such a scent profile, honey oud with some leather, vanilla, amber, definitely check out Shagaf Oud Azrak from Swiss Arabia. The next fragrance comes from the house of Maison Alhambra and it's called Infin Rose. This thing is a very high quality clone of Initio's Atomic Rose. Like with the original fragrance, the scent profile in here is all about the mix of a few different type of rose notes. In the opening they're aided by some bergamot freshness. You get a pink pepper note with this fragrance. There's some sort of a floral freshness from a jasmine note. Usually I don't like too much of the jasmine, but in here it's done very nicely, and the dry down becomes sweet from an amber and vanilla notes. A very nice rose centered fragrance. Feels very light in the air, but at the same time has fantastic performance, and in fact I've been using this quite often lately, and in fact this has been my scent of the day for today. For some people it may lean a little bit more to the feminine side, it definitely does, but I still think that guys can wear and enjoy Infin Rose. So if you're looking for a great clone of Atomic Rose by Initio, definitely check out Infin Rose from Maison Alhambra. And the last fragrance again comes from the house of Maison Alhambra. It's from the Zafiro collection and it's called Crafted Oud, and this is a clone of Carved Oud by Tamim. It's a very oud-centered fragrance that I absolutely love. It's also pretty similar to something like Oud from Tom Ford. You get that spicy, dark, oudy scent profile that has some sweetness. There's some amber and vanilla on the dry down of this fragrance. There's some cardamom and some pepper notes in the opening. The main player here is the Agar Oud. It's an absolutely fantastic, dark scent profile that's very masculine. I absolutely love it, and although it doesn't smell similar to Gucci's Intense Oud, it reminds me for some reason very much of that fragrance as well. Again, as I said, very masculine, very long lasting, at least on my skin. It's not a very hard projecting fragrance, but the longevity on skin is very nice. Comes very nicely packaged, and if you can find it for a good deal like I did for about 20 euros, and you like oud scents, this I think at that price point is an absolute steal. The last fragrance in this video, the Maison Alhambra Zafiro collection Crafted Oud. So guys, in today's video I showed you a total of 11 cheap fragrances that smell very expensive and smell way more expensive than they actually cost. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in my next video. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.